Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Why Are We Like This, a Heartstopper podcast. I'm Ashley, she, her.
And I'm Alyssa, she, they. And today we are here with freelance writer
Tariq Raouf, they, them.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm very happy to be here. I was very excited to get your email.
We can thank Ian for making that connection.
Yes, we love you, Ian.
So we're here today to talk a little bit about Mr. Ajayi and Mr. Farouk and the adult queer representation that we get in season 2. So before we dive in, do you want to tell us kind of your origin story with Heartstopper, how you found it, and your overall thoughts and feelings?
Yeah. So I found it with the TV show. Did you guys find it through the TV show, or did you find it through the comics?
We're split, actually. So
You're
I
split.
found the show, and Alyssa knew the comics first.
Okay.
So, it's a little bit more complicated than that, Ashley.
Okay, I simplified it.
The comics got put on my radar like 2 or 3 years ago, and then I kind of forgot about them. And then when the show came out, I was like, oh, right, someone had recommended the comics to me years ago, and I am a book before the movie person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I, devoured all of the comic in like one sitting, and then the next day devoured all of season 1 in one sitting. So,
Okay. Well, I know that was a weird way to answer your question, because you asked me a question and then I respond. I was like, it was very politician of me. But I don't know why I asked that question first, but I discovered it through the TV show. The way that I discovered it is because I'm a freelance journalist. I've been working with David Nin, who is the queer publicist for a lot of the queer content that Netflix puts out. And so he emailed me. He was like, hey, by the way, we have this brand new show coming out. I cried a ton. You need to watch it. I was like, okay, fine. And then I watched it and I texted and they're like, oh my gosh. So that's how I found it.
Nice.
That's kind of cool. Though.
Were you anxiously awaiting season 2 as well then?
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it. Really what made me fall in love with it was the party scene in season 1 with the bisexual lighting and the kiss and the music. And I was just like, it made me so happy.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. That's such an iconic scene for so many reasons.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I feel like everyone has something to say about that scene, especially being a really important moment for them.
Yeah.
I feel I could write an entire academic study of just that one paper. I shouldn't. I'm just giving myself more ideas for things to do. I'm like Ashley, I don't know if I'm this close to saying fuck it and getting a PhD so that I can do fandom studies. It's not good. I am not well.
Hey, fandom studies are real.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
No, my problem is you can always tell when I'm not doing well mentally because I either want to get a tattoo, get a radical haircut, or get a PhD. And I'm already actively applying to EdD programs. I'm already trying to get a different doctoral degree. I don't need to do this to myself.
That's fantastic.
I love that it shows what a nerd you are at heart, that the PhD also makes it into the list of mental breakdown activities.
Well, every academic I've ever talked to, getting a PhD is a form of self-harm. They haven't said it that way. No one has actually said that, but the way that they describe it, I'm like, oh, you're torturing yourself for 6 years to enter a non-existent job market.
My father just got his EDD, and I think he would say the same thing, honestly. Yeah, so
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah. So do you want to give us just a look at some of your favorite moments, or at the end of every episode, we pick our favorite quotes. So if you have any favorite quotes that stick out from the series. I know there's a lot.
I don't have one memorized. I guess just on a quick search, I really like, as your token straight friend, it's my duty to remind you that sometimes people are straight.
That's a very good one.
Yeah, Tao has some great lines.
That was good.
It also just like that line speaks to me deeply because I'm married to the token straight friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not gonna like that I said that, but whatever. I call him that all the time. He knows. I make fun of him constantly for it.
Oh, that's great.
He does. He's like, sometimes people are just straight.
That's so boring. It's so boring.
He's like, sometimes it's not autism, sometimes it's not ADHD, sometimes it's not gay, and I'm like, where's the fun?
Yeah.
Where's the fun? No fun.
I love that.
Okay, so you wrote an article for IGN, and it was focused basically exactly what this episode concept was. So it worked out perfectly. Do you want to talk a bit about what inspired you to write it and the process? And I'm sure a billion different emotions that went into writing it as well.
Yeah. So as soon as I watched season 2, I was like, wow, this is incredible. Not only because just because of like all the ways it expanded, but I particularly really enjoyed, and like for some reason the adult storylines really stood out to me because all of the adults got more screen time and we got introduced to more parents, and I just thought that it was such an incredible opportunity for the show to explore what like handling queer like adolescence is like. I think particularly expanding on Mr. Ajayi's and Mr. Farouk's relationship was like blew my mind because there are so many people, so many adults. The last time the first season came out, so many adults were like crying about how like this show was so great because they never got something like this, and like they never got to experience things like this as kids. And then here you have Mr. Farouk, who also has never experienced anything like this. And it was like Mr. Farouk was introduced because so many people expressed the same opinions and feelings of like never having to have shared these moments as children. And so like that's why I really wanted to write about it. And I was like so happy that IGN accepted that pitch because I tried to get that pitch to other places and they're like,
oh, come on.
I know. I'm really glad that it got published. And I'm also particularly glad that it rang true with other people like you two.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I wrote down a couple of things that I wanted to just talk about. If you don't mind, I'm just going to like read a couple of quotes from it. So at one point you wrote, frankly, Mr. Farouk's experience isn't uncommon. We're still moving away from heteronormative societal pressure that prevented people from exploring their sexuality for fear of being rebuked or punished. But as the needle moves towards more open acceptance of LGBTQIA plus identities, those who grew up thinking it was bad to be openly gay are finally getting a chance to explore what it means. And Mr. Ajayi's response to Mr. Farouk is a reminder to everyone who watched this first season thinking they may have missed something because those moments of discovery can come at any age. And that really hit me, which I know is like basically what we were just talking about. But I came out when I was 27 and I was already married to my partner. So I struggled a lot with that just in general in my own journey, thinking like almost like mourning this part of me that I just found, thinking I lost it already kind of. And so that is one of the reasons why this particular storyline really hits home with me because it's so relatable. And it's been kind of healing to watch it play out on the TV, you know?
Yeah. That line of like, not everyone, I can't even remember it. And I know it's in this article, and so I'm trying to find it again.
I got it. When you don't figure out that you're gay until your late 20s, you tend to miss out on those youthful gay teenage experiences.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then he says it's probably a bit late for youthful moments of discovery.
It hits me every time because I'm just like, ugh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that line is, I think that's what struck me so much and what made me want to write about it, because it was like it was so representative of so many people, like just like you, Ashley. Like I know so many adults who didn't really find like comfort in their queerness, or even maybe even let them accept queerness in themselves until a later age. And so like, I mean, I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot, but like it's just so important. It's so important to remind people that they are allowed to have these feelings that they've been like told to shut off and to block. You know, like people are allowed to have those feelings, and there has not been enough media or enough resources that like helps them feel that way.
Yes. It's, yeah, I mean, there's been a few things I can think of off the top of my head where there was like older queer representation, but never shown, just like every other story in this show, never shown with such like hopeful energy. And so it's just so fresh and like exciting to see it told this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you compare this with Callie Torres and Grey's Anatomy, it's like night and day.
Yes. I mean, I think I wrote about this in my first ever piece that I wrote about in Heartstopper. Like the first piece I wrote about Heartstopper was for Nerdist, and it was talking about how groundbreaking the show was for like LGBTQIA youth, because a lot of the time before shows like this were out, all of the shows that we ever got were about adults, right? And it's like, but like they're always about queer adults who already knew who they were. It was queer adults who already kind of like had this understanding of where they belonged in the world or how society viewed them. And it was not ever so much about queer adults discovering their queerness for the first time. So like,
right.
Like it's so interesting. The first season was really about the youth. And the second season was like, oh yeah, but like, let's just remind people that adults have a place in this space too.
Yeah. The next one I have, I don't have anything profound to say about it. My note just says, you fucking nailed it. I love this. So this, at one point you said, last season, this is also, I think, ties into what you just said. Last season was about getting up the courage to ask out your crush. And this season revolves around the idea of what coming out looks like when you're allowed to do it at your own pace, regardless of your age. So by expanding the cast of adults in the series, the show accomplishes something incredible. It reminds us that unconditional love and safe spaces are critical to growth, regardless of sexuality. That last sentence in that is like a mic drop for me. Like, yes.
Right? Yeah. I mean, just the fact that like Mr. Ajayi and Mr. Farouk exist in this world to provide these kids as like this safeguard, and like he doesn't yell at them at all in the episode, like he doesn't make them feel like what they're doing is bad. He's just like,
right,
get back, go back to your you know,
gently redirects them rather than shaming them.
Yes, for sure. I have a lot of teacher feelings about both Farouk and Ajayi. I'm not going to get into all of them, but like, because my thing about Farouk, and like you talk about this in the article, is like when he's first introduced is this like very loud, very like authoritative figure. He's like, quiet, and like all of that stuff, but he does have this like vulnerability and this like soft spot for the kids at the same time. And I love that we get to see both sides of that, because it's like, not for nothing, there is a time and a place for this like ordered way of doing things in a classroom. But like he also, it's not to the point where a lot of teachers take it, which is where it's completely dehumanizing to the students. He's doing it like, he's like, this is the way that I know to get these kids attention and to get them to do what they need to do. And like, it's structured and there's a routine, and that's great. But then also like when he's dealing with them as people, he's viewing the kids as human beings, and it's not like this whole thing. And it just like warmed my heart, because a lot of people don't do that. They just kind of look down and they're like, nope, chop chop. This is how you have to do things, and don't actually treat kids like people. And it's just like this really wonderful thing that both teachers do. But I think it's really important with Farouk, because he's like a very authoritative teacher. But like, it's not bad.
It shows you how to be an authoritative and commanding person while also like respecting the kids that you're teaching.
Yeah, right.
I agree.
This one I do have a little blurb that I wrote about.
I love this. No one has ever, like, let me just say, no one has ever done this to me, where they've like told me specific lines of the pieces that I've written, and they'd be like, I love this. And like, I can't tell you, like I am having such a hard time. And I can't tell you how much it means to me to have the words that I write be so effective and like have like make people think in ways like this. Like it touches my heart so much. So like I just have to tell you the fact that like you've gone through and like you've picked out these lines that I wrote and expressed how much you love them, like it just warms my heart. You know, like it's incredible. So thank you.
I didn't think I was going to cry on this episode. We weren't talking about a specific episode, but god damn.
I knew I was possibly in the tear zone for this because I cry every time that I read this. I've read your article, this article, multiple times, and I cry every time that I read it. So I knew that I was in tear zone for this one. So.
I mean, for me, this is like my dream. I'm like, I get to like talk to the person about it and like have my thoughts and feelings to them. Like, I don't get to do that because I don't engage in the comment sections of things because it's a nightmare.
Oh, the comment sections.
No, I'm like, nope, not doing that. But like, I'm like, oh, I get to like annotate it. But instead of that, I'm talking to you.
Yeah, the editor of IGN went through like she was deleting comments from this piece because like she didn't want to like throw me to the dogs. Like she's been defending me the entire time. Like
that's awesome.
Good.
I love it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, so you say there's a certain brilliance to the way that Osman refuses to show us what's behind Darcy's door early on in the season, not letting us into her life because we all already know what's going on. Not only is there an abundance of stories available that tell us what living in that house is like, but many of us live in or still do live in places like that, lived in or still live in, do live in places like that. Heartstopper once again emphasizes queer joy, what parenting young LGBTQIA plus kids looks like when it's done right and leaving the horrors of the negative experiences that many face in the background to be acknowledged but never centered. This is what I've been trying to say since we started this podcast, but so much more eloquently than I could ever have said. And that's why I think this show, comic / work, Heartstopper in general is so important, is because there are so many stories available that show the traumatic side of all of this, this journey that we go on. And there are so few that focus on the joy and remain hopeful. And I think that we need both. And I'm so sick of everyone complaining about this story not being realistic because of its joyfulness. Because that's simply not true. There are so many heavy topics touched on in Heartstopper. But that doesn't mean that the characters can't also find love and happiness while going through all of this traumatic shit. That is how life happens. It's ups and downs.
Yeah. And I think it's so important because, like, and again, this is also one of those things that we both have been trying to articulate for like a year now, throughout the whole recording, like all of our episodes, is like emphasizing that joy, especially as we are in season 2 and like moving forward and like dealing with darker themes. I think that centering everything still around queer joy is so important because that is what's going to anchor you through those difficult moments, is having that support network and that love and support from other people. And so it always makes me sad when people say that it's like too like sugary sweet and too like not realistic enough, because I'm like, no, this is like the goal. This is what we should be like holding up and celebrating, because especially because it is ostensibly a show. It's a family show. It's targeted at like teens and tweens who like really need to see that so that they know as they're going through these really difficult and very real things, like this is something that you can ground yourself in. And it be something that you can hold up and celebrate and be your lifeline of these people. And I have a lot of feelings.
The passion is coming out now.
I'm also like not doing great with words today, full disclosure. But that's
that's fine. Who needs words? We can just have feelings. It's fine.
But on this audio medium, just
the ability of the show to really just center itself in joy and not let go of that as like one of its core values, I think is essential to why so many people even like love it and give it the time and the space that it has been given. Like as kids, like we grow up and like the dark, scary, awful parts about being queer are so obvious to us already, you know, and we know what Darcy is going through when she's going in that house. We're watching the show. If you watch the first season, you're like, I love the show. You watch the second season because it gave you that joy. Like you're not watching this to see Darcy struggle with her mom, you know?
Right.
And so like, I just like, mwah, like Alice Oseman, man, she's brilliant. Yeah. She's brilliant in the way that she tackles this series.
But I was thinking about this earlier too, of like Alice Oseman has found a way to like find what is missing from queer media and somehow include all of it in this one thing, like show and comic inclusive, without it feeling like over full. Like I feel like everything gets its due, even in these really short seasons of television. I don't know how Alice does it, but it's awesome.
It's incredible to think that like they pull off so much in such a small amount of time.
Yeah. And I feel like they really have mastered the balance of here's this really heavy thing and here's this like comic relief without it feeling like, okay, now laugh, everything's going to be okay. Like it's all very natural, you know? It's such a roller coaster. Like specifically off the top of my head, the first thing I think of is Charlie faints and then we go straight to Tao and Elle having their first kiss. And that was like whiplash, but it worked for my emotions, you know, like it hit. So like that was such a good way to order that episode.
And I mean that, like having read some of Alice's other work, that like is just like a skill that Alice Oseman has, because that rings true in every Alice Oseman work that I've read.
For sure.
Like in the comics too, like she manages to like balance this like lighthearted, lovely like vibe, but then also like, hey, this is really serious. But like you can have the serious things in life while also maintaining your like love for life and your joy.
Exactly.
Right, yeah. The show, just so you know, the show like is stays very true to the comics. So it's all very similar.
I can't wait to read those books.
I recommend it. But even in her novels as well, she does the same thing really well. Like, because Solitaire is her first novel, and that was 2011, and she's doing it really, really well in that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll have to add that to my list.
Yeah, it's about Tori.
Yeah, it's also where Heartstopper was born. So Solitaire came first, and then she was like, oh, these side characters, let's expand on them, and Heartstopper was born. So.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you're an audiobook person at all, but they just released a new audiobook version with Jenny Walser narrating it, because it's Tori's first person.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's our Tori, yeah.
It's our Tori, and it's so exciting. Highly recommend it. I have listened to the audiobook twice. The first time was before that edition came out, and I was like, something isn't clicking. And then I re-listened to it with the new audiobook, and I was like, oh yeah, it was just that person wasn't Tori. This is Tori.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, I've been recommending that to everyone with even an ounce of interest in the show. So
okay, well I'll have to. It's going to be on my list now.
Awesome,
nice. Okay, so the last bit that I have is, I think it's the closing statement from the article, where you said, as a whole, Heartstopper's second season is a masterclass in teaching adults how to embrace queerness from all sides, whether they're LGBTQIA+ or not. Some of us may have missed out on what these kids have, but we still have plenty of opportunities to both be our authentic selves and help create a safer tomorrow for queer youth. By reminding us the power of unconditional love and acceptance, Heartstopper has shown us how to take care of the next generation so that they can have a journey as magical as Nick, Charlie, and all their friends. And then my note is just tears in all caps. Applause for your words. This is such a perfect synopsis of season 2. And I just think you hit the nail on the head with this article. So,
yes. So Yes, I had a lot of similar feelings to Ashley. But one more thing I wanted to point out, because you kind of blew my mind a little bit. I was like mad at myself for not making this connection. But I'm choosing to believe it's because I haven't watched season 2 as many times as I've seen season 1. So just, but I never thought about the like juxtaposition of Nick and Charlie's parents with Darcy's mom, and like how we get so much more of Sarah and the Springs, and we don't really get a lot of Darcy's mom. And I just, as I was reading that, I was like, oh my God, they're right. That's so right. That's so true. Why didn't I think of this? But yeah, like it really spoke to me of this idea that it's this like refusal to like dwell in the darkness of queerness. Because that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
That's not what the show is about. And yeah, it just kind of like, I was like, it blew my mind, because I was like, that's, yeah.
So think about it like this. Like you have this queer show that's geared towards a younger audience. So you know that the younger kids are probably going to be watching this, and a lot of those younger kids are going to be watching this with their parents. And so like one of the most ingenious things that second season does is that it shows the parents exactly how to parent when your kid comes out with you. Like your kid might have been like, I really want to watch this show, maybe because they're in the closet and they're like, oh, I want, will you watch this with me? And like the parents are going to be watching this and be like they see the way that like Nick and Charlie's parents handle their coming out and handle their boyfriend like relationship status, and like they're given these like incredibly important moments that help them hopefully like absorb what to do if their child or if their child's friends ever comes to them and be like, hey, I'm queer. And like it doesn't give them any ammunition at all into as to like what to do if you don't like that. Like you see Darcy's mom and you go, oh God, that's like horrific. Like I don't want to be like that. It like prevents parents from wanting to identify with that kind of parent, and then goes, wow, maybe like I should be able to tell my kid that they can tell me anything they want.
Yeah. And like in doing that too, like we don't see a lot of Darcy's mom, but we see the impact of Darcy's mom on Darcy. And it's like very much for someone who maybe hasn't thought about it and just has whatever like preconceived notions. It's not about like the mom. It's not about that. It's about how Darcy is feeling and like what is happening for her internally, and it's contextualizing things for the adults in I think really important ways, because I've made similar points before of like, I think it was with the scene where Nick comes out to his mom at the end of season 1. It's like such a like how-to guide of like, here is how you respond to your child coming out to you.
Yes.
And I also love that like Charlie's coming out has already happened and we don't like know, but his parents are just kind of there. And like you also make the point that Charlie's parents, their problems are not that he's with a dude. Their problems are that he is prioritizing his relationship over school. And it's like, yeah. If I were a parent, that's also what I would be mad at.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it does a really good job of like there's something for everybody in this show. Like whether you are a queer person, whether you're a queer child, whether you're a queer adult, whether you are the token straight friend, whether you are the parent of a queer kid, the teacher of a queer kid, there's something for everybody. Everyone should watch this show.
I agree. Yes. I agree.
So we really don't see the Farouk Ajayi storyline start to go anywhere until Promise. When they're at the Paris meeting, we kind of see them having a little flirts.
And I start writing fan fiction.
Yes, which is like almost non-existent. Why can I not find any teacher fanfic? Come on.
Yeah. Is there not
It's
any?
all Nick and Charlie.
Are you serious?
I have found 2 so far.
And we've like asked, like I put out like a public on the podcast, like where are all the teacher fics?
And I tweeted it too, and you know what got recommended? The 2 I already had on my spreadsheet. Yes, I have a fanfic spreadsheet.
You have to. I would like to see that fanfic spreadsheet.
I can share it,
but I can't believe that there aren't that many about the adults. That's wild.
I have a hypothesis.
What's the hypothesis?
So not for nothing, having been in fandom since I myself was a teen with a lot of time on my hands and not a lot of things to do with that time. The people who have the time and energy to be writing fan fiction often are younger and therefore are connecting more with the younger characters. So I just feel like they're like the people who are writing fanfic maybe aren't connecting with the older characters as much just because of demographics. But that being said, hey, anyone who has more than 5 minutes of free time, which I don't have, and I've established there are so many teacher fics that I would write if I had the time, but I'm tired.
Also, this is a call out to you people in our fanfic channel on our Discord.
Yeah.
We do write fanfic. We've been asking for this. Where's it?
The teacher fics, right? The teacher fics. They don't even have to be smutty. That's fine.
Yeah, we'll take wholesome ones.
Yeah, they could be wholesome. Yeah, I would love some wholesome ones.
Can someone write their wedding scene and write their vows for me? Because I would love that.
Oh. You broke us with that one sentence.
Because I just started thinking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, can you imagine them at the altar, and then Nick and Charlie and all their friends throwing like petals and like cheering and like.
Okay, so really important question though in this fan fiction that we're now collectively writing on pod. Is Coach Singh the officiant, or is she Ajayi's best man?
I think she's the best man.
Best man for sure. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
And her wife is there too.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they all hang out together outside of school. Like they're couple friends.
Thought it would be funny to imagine her as the officiant taking credit for their relationship. Because she's definitely behind the scenes.
Yeah, her like dry humor would be funny too. Like
and like they're kissing, and then Charlie's sister is like slurping a drink.
Everybody looks at her and she's like, "Congratulations."
I love it.
We joke that Coach Singh is like the secret behind the scenes pushing them together. Like, oh, you're so stressed out. You know what would be great for you? The Paris trip. You should host it. And then she's in the other one's ear like, we need you on the Paris trip because you speak French. And so we need you to go. Like, just giving them each little nuggets and pushing them together slowly.
Well, I mean, she also like point blank tells Ajayi to like invite Farouk to the prom, right?
Yeah,
to like help chaperone the prom.
Have you guys ever considered the prospect of how Nick speaking French is kind of like an aspect of his bisexuality that he's hidden to absolutely everyone, and once he's like become bi, like he like he's just fully out there, and people are like, "What the heck?"
No, but I have now.
Damn it, you're gonna make me get a PhD so that I can do all of the academic.
Yeah, that just blew my mind.
I don't have time for this. You're giving me so many thoughts.
No, that is such an astute observation.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
Yeah, the big thing with Nick that actually my husband pointed out to me is like Nick's body language, how his body language like changes over the course of the 2 seasons as he like, because like when we see him, he's like kind of like sitting, he's pretty open, but after he meets Charlie, he starts getting much more guarded with his like posture and his body language. But then like over the course of season 2, he's like opening up more. And that kind of like physical stuff has that. Like been like the thing they've focused on.
I love that. That's incredible.
Since it was pointed out to me, because I can't stop noticing it now.
When the next time I rewatch this, that's definitely going to be one of the first things I focus on for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like starting from like in Meet, like he's not like he's sitting in like a very like open kind of way, but then for a lot of the rest of season 1, he's like in very guarded, like arms across his chest kind of postures.
Interesting.
And the big difference in season 1 that I notice is when he has lunch with Tara and Darcy for the first time, he's fully open. Whereas like when he's with like the rugby boys and stuff, you know, or he's in class, he's like this. But when he's with them, he's like spread out on the ground, you know, like laid out talking to them. So it's like he's instantly comfortable with them.
You just blew my mind.
And also when David comes into his room and like meets Charlie and is like, David is being a shit. And, you know, Nick is like, I'm bi and so what actually? As that he crosses his arms to like start to guard and protect himself because he was open, and now that David has invaded this like safe space, he has to be on guard.
Okay, you need to get that PhD.
So no, I can't take full credit. My husband is the one who pointed this out to me originally.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So
that's brilliant. You see, that's one of my favorite things.
Really annoying to talk to because we both are ex-film students.
But like that's one of my favorite things about like analyzing TV shows and content like this. It's just like being able to like look at a movie or look at a TV show and dissect a scene like that. Like so many people say that like TV rots your brain, right? But like if you think about it in the ways that fandom thinks about things, if you look at them in the way that we look at them and we analyze and like we see, like also just as a storyteller and someone who's like written scripts before, there is so much depth to everything that you see on that screen. It doesn't have to rot your brain. If you're not analyzing any of it, if you're just kind of like sucking it in and like, oh, that was fun, like then maybe like it'll rot your brain. But if you actually want to like invest the time to like say, what does this mean? What is this like? What is the hidden meaning behind this? What is the character drive here? Like, I love it. It's so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, and like as a teacher, I think about it a lot because like so many of my students like struggle with literacy and with reading, and like using like film and TV is like such an accessible way to teach the same skills of like analysis and like thinking critically about text. And I get so frustrated that that is not a more celebrated thing in education, which is part of the reason I want to get an EdD so that I can do work on alternative literacies and be like, hey, let's do this. Because I mean, I've worked in the Bronx, and I'm now in a school district where I have a lot of students who are like recent immigrants from Latin America and from the Caribbean, and who are learning English or have only been here for a few years, and English is their second language. And so I'm like, but film.
For sure. Yeah.
Are there any points that we missed that you wanted to say? Anything about the teachers that you wanted to drive home, or anything else about the show?
No, just that like I think a lot more people should consider watching the show, even if it doesn't like I mean, it's speaking to the wrong audience because I feel like all of your podcast listeners are like, I love the show, so bring it to me. But like if you're listening to this podcast and you know people who haven't seen the show, or like you know people who would benefit from the show, even straight adults that might not even like have queer children, but like maybe straight teachers, like I think more people need to take a look at specifically the second season because of how well a job it does at teaching us how we can build a society that encourages people to be themselves without feeling like themselves is like a bad thing. Being themselves is a bad thing, right. You know? Like that's like the one thing I would say is like this show is so critical for queer entertainment because it shows us what the world could be. And I feel like if we had a world like Heartstopper, like the world would just be a better place.
Yeah. Well, we wholeheartedly agree.
Yes. And the whole time you were talking, I'm just imagining Ashley just taking that file, copying it, and sending it to her partner.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Been trying to get him to watch it. He's like, his thing is the teen part though. He just like can't do teen dramas. And so I'm slowly working on getting him to just sit down and watch it. So
you should watch it. What's your partner's name?
Zach.
Hey, Zach, you need to watch Heartstopper because it's incredible. And I know that they're teens, but it's very, very like adult feelings that they have to deal with. And you would be better equipped having learned all the lessons from Heartstopper than had you not watched Heartstopper. So you should absolutely be watching this, Zach.
Yeah, you hear that, Zach? Okay. Before we go, do you want to tell our listeners kind of like where they can find you? We're going to link your article in the show notes. But if you want to plug any other articles you've written or anything like that.
Yeah. So I will definitely plug my Nerdist article. So if you look up Tariq Raouf, and that's TARIQ RAOUF. That is my handle, first off, on Instagram and on Twitter. Tariq _RAOUF at Twitter and Instagram. Those are the two places I'm most active. And then, yeah, if you look up my name and Nerdist, you will see my Heartstopper article. I think that's like one of the ones I'm most proud of, too. So
awesome.
I can't wait to read that one. I pulled it up earlier. Yeah. I was like, gonna read that after we sign off.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure to speak with you.
Yes, thank you for having me. It has been incredible. And like truly, I cannot tell you the amount of joy that you have brought me at one of the like hardest parts of my life. So thank you so much. I'm very happy to be a part of this conversation.
We're so happy you're here.
Yes.
So, of course, this is a bi-weekly podcast by two bisexuals, and we will be back in 2 weeks to talk about Season 2, Episode 6, Truth/Dare, also known as the moment I've been waiting for my whole life.
If you want to follow us online, we are at Why Are We Cast on all platforms.
And until next time, bye.
Bye. Watch Heartstopper, Zach.